Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Site for White and White Sense, welcoming you to this week's Talking News on Friday the 25th of April 2025. Been a fairly frightening week, if I'm honest. My son turned 17 and got behind the wheel of a car for the first time. I can't tell you how much it will change to have a driver in the house, but it is still a fairly scary concept that the person I feel has only been alive for a couple of years, in my brain anyway, is behind the wheel of a car. This week we've been recording the audio version of the newsletter, which will go out to you on the 12th of May. Again, any feedback is always very, very welcome. Finally, I come to you this week from Kent as I'm on a 2-day fundraising conference to see how we can help to secure the charity's future by putting a solid fundraising plan into place. Thank you. Lisa, CEO, Site for White and White Sense.
Here is this week's charity news for the week commencing 25th of April 2025. Swimming is at Medina on Monday between 1:15pm and 2pm. We have the whole pool, so whether you wish to swim lanes or just have gentle exercise in the pool, you will be made very welcome. The cost is £6 and transport is available, although limited. All members are very welcome to join.
There is no yoga at Millbrook House on Tuesday, but will resume next week. This group is now full, but if you wish to put your name down on the waiting list, please call the office.
Coffee and chat is on Wednesday starting at 10am until 11:30am. The cost is £2 to include drinks and cake. Staff are on hand to help with any queries and to demonstrate equipment.
Monthly book group is on Thursday at Newport Lord Lewis Library between 2pm and 3pm. This month, the group will discuss A Kind of Loving by Stan Barstow. If you would like to join this group, it is free and new members are always very welcome.
Next Saturday, we are holding a fundraising event at Chillerton Village Hall. We will be selling cakes, holding a raffle and selling small items of bric-a-brac, etc. If anyone would like to donate a raffle prize or bake a cake, we would really appreciate it. Or if you would like to pop along between 10am and 12pm, you will be made very welcome.
Please remember that our VE 80th year celebration party is on May the 8th at the First Newport Scout Hall between 2pm and 4pm. This party is open to everyone, members, volunteers, family, neighbours and friends of the charity. We are asking for a voluntary donation of £5 to help towards the afternoon. Following the previous successful afternoons, you will not be disappointed, so do call the office and book a space. Now the warmer and hopefully sunnier weather is coming, our tandem bikes are now out and about. If you would like a tester session, please call the office and a slot can be booked with the pilots.
Our monthly 100 Club has spare balls available. If anyone would like to buy a ball, it is £2 per month or £24 for the full year. The more balls in draw, the higher the prize money each month. If you would like to take part in our monthly draw, please call the office. This is part of our fundraising activities.
Hi, this is Steve reading a story from Isle of Wight Radio with the headline, We've been plundered. Ferry users stage protest as Minister visits island. Ferry protesters gathered in an Isle of Wight town centre on Wednesday, outraged at unreliable and increasingly expensive services. Gathered on Cowes High Street, wearing pirate outfits and holding placards reading, No more doubloons for ferry tycoons and we've been plundered, the demonstration coincides with a ministerial visit to the island. Mike Kane MP, the Minister for Aviation, Maritime and Security, is attending the Isle of Wight Ferries Round Table at Cowes Island Sailing Club, a forum to facilitate discussion on the perceived issues affecting people's ability to rely upon vital Isle of Wight ferry services, according to an official briefing. Participants in today's round table include both of the island's MPs, County Hall leader Phil Jordan, CEO of Red Funnel Fran Collins, White Links CEO Katie Taylor, the Managing Director of Hover Travel Neil Chapman, and Sir Paul Kenny, former leader of the GMB Union and a prominent campaigner for better ferry services. Mr Kenny said, "It's time for change. Everyone knows the ferries are overpriced, they're debt-laden, It can't go on. There has to be a political intervention. There's no structure, no regulation. Across the road from him, a chorus of demonstrators chanted, "Killing the island, ferries are, robbing the island, ferries are." Isle of Wight West MP Richard Quigley said the Cross Solent Ferries market was a natural monopoly without government intervention. He added, "The Department for Transport aren't admitting it's a problem, so we need to make them aware it's a problem. It's a huge issue, and we don't have an alternative. It's our only option for travelling across the Solent." Joe Robertson, the Isle of Wight East MP, said, "It's the biggest ongoing issue on the island. Prices have gone up, timetables have dwindled, and reliability has got worse. I would like to see the government intervene. The Minister coming here today is a good start, but it's only a start. I don't trust the ferry companies to make the change we need, because they owe their responsibilities to one group of people and one group only, their shareholders."
Future of perpetuous tidal energy centre in doubt, amid funding uncertainty. From the Island Echo, read by Joyce Fletcher. The company behind the long-delayed tidal energy project off the Isle of Wight is facing serious doubts over its future, as directors admit there is material uncertainty over whether it can continue operating. Perpetuous Tidal Energy Centre, PTEC, which holds consents to build a 30 MW tidal stream energy facility off St Catherine's Point, has warned in its latest financial statements that it may not be able to continue as a going concern. The company says its ability to meet financial obligations depends on successfully securing a contract for difference, CFD, the UK government's key support mechanism for low-carbon electricity generation. In a stark assessment, the directors have said the company's ability to continue is dependent on the UK government's recognition that there is a need to balance early revenue support across the union. This will enable the company to compete fairly to win one of the contract for difference schemes. In addition, the company will need to secure additional funding from both public and private bodies. The directors say steps are being taken to address these issues, but acknowledge there is no certainty that these efforts will be successful. This latest development follows years of delays to the scheme, which was originally granted consent in 2016. In 2022, PTEC said it was targeting full operation by 2025, following a resurgence of activity and a new planning application linked to onshore works at Flowers Brook. However, at the tail end of last year, an application to modify 9 conditions tied to that onshore development was refused by County Hall planning officers, casting further uncertainty over the project's progress. The proposal would have supported vital grid connection infrastructure for the offshore array, which remains unbuilt. Despite efforts to revive momentum, PTEC now faces the dual challenge of overcoming both planning and financial hurdles. Without a breakthrough in government support or investment, the future of tidal energy generation off the Isle of Wight remains unclear.
This is Den reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. 2 Isle of Wight sailors set to help lead a team in world's toughest endurance challenge. Isle of Wight born and raised sailors Diana Vega and Faith Nordbruch have been selected to help lead a team of non-professionals around the globe in the upcoming edition of the Clipper Round the World Yacht Race. The duo will each take on the role of first mate, supporting their race skippers in racing 40,000 nautical miles around the world when it gets underway from Portsmouth on the 31st of August. Speaking about the opportunity, Diana, who hails from Cowes, said, "Breaking into the offshore sailing industry isn't always easy, and working as the first mate for the Clipper race is a symbolic point after a long journey of gaining the experience and confidence needed for this role. For me, my sailing career represents endurance, commitment and determination, which resonate with this role." Diana and Faith have been selected as first mates for the Clipper 2025-26 race. The Clipper race is the only event of its kind which trains people from all walks of life to become ocean racers and take on the endurance challenge of a lifetime. Each of the teams is led by a professional race skipper and first mate. For Diana, taking on the role of Clipper race first mate comes after being brought up in the sailing mecca of Cowes, giving her a lifelong interest in sailing. With offshore sailors for parents, Diana spent her youth on the water. However, it wasn't until later in life, having moved home from Brighton where she was studying when the pandemic hit, that she found her route into working in the industry. It was during this time that Diana met a yacht captain who asked her to crew on his classic yacht, which she helped to restore from a wreck before skippering it across the Bay of Biscay. She has since skippered yachts in the Caribbean, worked as a dinghy instructor and crewed various yachts in the Solent. For Faith, who was brought up in Knighton before moving to Cowes, becoming a Clipper race first mate is an accumulation of hard work after starting her professional sailing career aged just 17. Freelancing as a skipper and first mate for various Solent-based sailing companies, Faith's experience includes supporting the Rona Sailing Project as a first volunteer first mate, working as a first mate for Clipper race training, and spending 5 months doing refit work with the Ocean Youth Trust. This has equipped Faith with solid experience as she gears up to take on the biggest job of her career so far as first mate in the Clipper 2025-26 race. On appointment to the role, Faith said, "Being chosen as a first mate on the Clipper race is a huge milestone in my sailing career. It's a challenging job that requires strong skills in leadership and teamwork, and then putting those to the test in some of the toughest sailing environments. The opportunity to work alongside one of the talented skippers and being able to support but also learn from them is also very exciting. I see this as an opportunity to further my knowledge of both sailing and leadership skills, and long term I view this as my stepping stone to skippering the race in the future." All first mates go through a rigorous selection process led by the Clipper race management team. The team's race director, deputy race director and race manager have all competed as race skippers on previous editions and therefore understand the unique requirements of this role. Max Rivers, Deputy Race Director, said our talented first mates all hold the RYA Yacht Master Offshore qualification and have plenty of experience to go with it. From skippering yachts, carrying out deliveries and teaching RYA accredited courses, they have sailed all over the world and come from diverse maritime backgrounds. We look forward to incorporating their skills and knowledge into the Clipper Race Challenge ahead. Their primary role throughout the race is to support the team skipper in all aspects of boat management, meaning this bunch are not only great sailors but also teachers, leaders and mentors for the race crew. The Skipper 2025-26 first mate lineup. Amy Smith from Somerset for the UK, Ben Brearley from Cumbria, UK, Brian Uniacke from Dublin, Ireland, Diana Vega from the Isle of Wight, UK, Faith Norbrook from the Isle of Wight, UK, Jade Golder from Surrey, UK, Lorraine O'Hanlon from Kinsale, Ireland, Millie Appley from West Yorkshire, UK, Otto Kunlo from Leipzig, Germany, born Harrogate, UK, Zoe Longley from Derbyshire, UK. The race will make 14 points of call on its global route, with Portsmouth, UK, Cape Town, South Africa, Guangdong, China, and Tongsong City, Korea, Seattle, USA, and Oban, Scotland, announced so far.
Hello, this is Steve reading a story from the Island Echo with the headline, NHS encouraging you to buy your hay fever treatments over the counter. NHS Hampshire and Isle of Wight is encouraging the public to consider purchasing hay fever treatments such as antihistamines over the counter rather than requesting a GP prescription. With the NHS prescription charge currently at £9.90, many over-the-counter antihistamines are available at a lower price in pharmacies and supermarkets. This means patients can access the advice and medication they need at their local pharmacy without waiting for a GP appointment. It is also quicker than requesting a prescription through the GP. Dr. Zaid Hermes, Deputy Chief Medical Officer at NHS Hampshire and Isle of Wight, says, many people rely on antihistamines to manage their symptoms. Most common antihistamines are available without a prescription, making it faster and often cheaper to get relief from allergies. Our community pharmacists can provide advice on which treatment is best to manage the symptoms. However, those with severe allergies or symptoms that do not improve with standard over-the-counter treatments should seek further medical advice. GPs can provide specialist medications for individuals who need additional support. Symptoms for hay fever are usually worse between late March and September, especially when it's warm, humid and windy. This is when the pollen count is at its highest. The severity of symptoms can vary. Some people can manage their condition by avoiding triggers, and others need medication to manage their symptoms. Avoiding triggers can help ease symptoms of hay fever, such as keeping house and car windows closed, especially when the pollen count is high. That's in the early morning between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m, and in the evenings between 5 and 7. Consider changing your car pollen filter annually. Avoiding large grassy areas, woodland, cutting the grass, pollutants and car fumes. Wearing wraparound sunglasses. Washing your hands, face and hair. Rinse your eyes and change your clothes after being outside. Keeping your house clean and wearing a mask and glasses when doing housework. Don't dry washing outside to avoid pollen sticking to your clothes. Create a yearly reminder to start your treatment before your symptoms begin.
Isle of Wight Steam Railway acquires Ashley Station. From Isle of Wight Radio, read by Joyce Fletcher. The Isle of Wight Steam Railway has acquired Ashley Station 57 years after the station was sold by British Railways. The Steam Railway has acquired the full station grounds, the station buildings and land to the north. The station was built for the opening of the Ryde and Newport Railway in 1875. It was reduced to an unmanned halt in 1953 and sold into private ownership in 1968, 2 years after closure of the line. The aspiration to eventually acquire the original main station building and platforms set out in the railway's first strategic vision, published in 2009. Fast forward to February 2024, and the time felt right to let the Holbrook family owners of the station since 1980 know of our continued interest should they ever decide to sell. Mark Morgan Hughes, Chief Executive at the Isle of Wight Stem Railway, said, "We are immensely grateful to the Holbrook family for their willingness to enter into exclusive negotiations and a sale directly to us. We have acquired the full station grounds, the station buildings, and land to the north. What better way to celebrate the 150th anniversary of our railway? We will return to the station in 1926, Southern Railway period condition, externally, restore the public rooms, and allow us to achieve an income from the remainder of the property from holiday letting. This is now our priority, but we expect Phase 2 to take up to 2 years with much research, planning and statutory approvals required before we can start the renovations. The plan will be to fully restore the platform, return the buildings to period condition, and bring them up to a standard in which they can be utilised. This, we estimate, will cost in the region of a further £550,000. We will be raising funds to help with the costs to return Ashley Station to its 1926 appearance, fully restored and protected for the future."
This is Den reading an article from the Island Echo. Union raises concerns over staffing freeze at Isle of Wight NHS Trust. A public sector union has fired a further warning shot over the Isle of Wight NHS Trust's workforce reduction plans at St Mary's Hospital. Unison said the Trust's intentions centre around a planned recruitment freeze, something it added could affect the ability of nurses, doctors and other health professionals to do their jobs. Last week it was revealed that around 10% of whole-time equivalent, WTE, jobs within the Trust are at risk as part of cost improvement plans amid NHS reforms put forward by Whitehall. Last week, Isle of Wight West MP Richard Quigley, Labour, said no frontline roles will be cut at St Mary's after meeting with unions and the Trust last week. He said, "I spoke to Unison and the Trust last week. No job losses are confirmed. Should any be made, it will be in back office functions, removing duplication." Workforce reduction is a key aspect of the health service provider's operating plan for 2025 to 26, according to its March board papers. The Trust previously said that while it understands these decisions are difficult, it needs to go further than it did last year to achieve the significant financial savings required of us. James Smith, Unison South East Regional Organiser, said, "The unions and senior managers met this week to discuss the Trust's intentions. These centre around a planned recruitment freeze, which is part of the Trust's overall plans to save money. It's hard to imagine a world where squeezing recruitment doesn't have an impact on patient care in some way, whether it's frontline staff or the workers supporting them. A pause on hiring could affect the ability of nurses, doctors and other health professionals to do their jobs. The NHS needs real investment in staff, not a cut in the number of roles."
This is the second part of the Talking News, read by Jerry
and Ursula.
We begin with some more news items taken from the County Press and the Observer. Vital roadworks on the way. Island Roads is about to deliver another programme of highway improvement works across the island this spring. The programme of surface dressing has been agreed following analysis of road surveys and is designed both to increase skid resistance and to seal the carriageway surface, preventing water ingress, which is the major cause for potholes forming. The main body of work will be carried out between now and May the 23rd to avoid the school Easter holidays and the May half-term. But islanders may have seen island road crews preparing the affected areas in advance. This preparation work could include ensuring that there are no existing potholes and that the surface is even, meaning the main works time could be reduced. Surface dressing was a technique used last spring to undertake an intense programme of highway improvement. While the programme concentrated on major routes such as Whippingham Road, this year it also includes a number of smaller and residential roads. This is because Island Roads is required to maintain the condition of all types of roads. The scope is similar to 2024 though, with up to 100,000 square metres of surface dressing planned. That's around 14 kilometres of roads. Surface dressing improves applying a layer of bitumen onto the highway into which chippings are then simultaneously rolled. The road is swept initially, leaving the action of traffic to further bed down the chippings into the new surface. Additional sweeping will also be done after 48 hours and again 1 week after the treatment. As the process relies on road traffic to bed down materials, a secondary treatment called lock chip will be used on quieter routes, around half the sites, to fix the stones to the surface. The entire process is carried out by state-of-the-art vehicles, and as surfacing progresses at walking pace, only short-duration rolling road closures are required. Emergency vehicles will be able to pass through work sites at all times. The process requires dry weather and a ground temperature of 10 degrees Celsius or above, so the spring is the best time to deliver the works, and it also avoids the busier summer season.
After the roads are treated, crews will need to return to reinstate cat's eyes and line markings if required. An Island Road spokesman said, "This is a widely used, effective and quick process, so disruption to the network should be kept to a minimum, even though approximately 100,000 square metres of carriageway will be treated. We're looking forward to a programme that will bring considerable safety benefits across the island, as well as prolonging the lifespan of the treated roads by making them less susceptible to potholes. The programme is subject to change, not least because of the weather, as surface dressings cannot be laid in wet or cold conditions. However, sites are likely to include Marchcombe Chute, Brading, Gully Road, Nettleston, Lynch Lane, Kelbourne, Freshwater Road, Kelbourne, Newport Road, Freshwater Road, Shelfleet, Freshwater, Gate Lane, Freshwater, Victoria Road, Freshwater, Gaius Road, Freshwater, High Street, Knighton, Barrack Chute, Knighton, Lacey's Lane, Knighton, Binstead Lodge Road, Binstead, Chestnut Close, Binstead, Pelview Close, Binstead, Hillrise Avenue, Binstead, Buckham Road, Carisbrook, Bellevue Road, Cowes, Seaview Road, Cowes, Maxted Close, Cowes, Knighton Road, Rookley, Blythe Way, Shanklin, Silver Trees, Shanklin. You can read more about the programme along with some frequently asked questions at www.islandsroad.com via the Current Works tab. Why Islands Roads uses surface dressing? What are the advantages of surface dressing? Surface dressing offers many advantages. It improves skid resistance, which makes the road safer. It helps to make a road waterproof. It protects the road against frost and water damage, which cause defects such as potholes. It helps to reduce spray caused by vehicles travelling on wet road surfaces. Compared to relaying hot mix asphalt, surface dressing provides a very low carbon footprint solution. It is relatively quick to lay, keeping disruption to a minimum. While efficient to lay, it is also durable. Depending on traffic volumes, surface dressings normally last between 6 to 12 years.
Director talks Isle of Wight film future. I feel that the sort of godfather sitting in the office saying, "I want you to take care of this and that," acclaimed film director Peter Howarth tells the County Press, explaining his role on the new Robin Hill documentary while channeling his inner Al Pacino. The witty actor turned movie maker is putting his humour, knowledge and voice to the new series, which follows the transformation and reopening of the beloved island attraction. Peter's involvement with the project stems from his friendship with Jules Baker Smith, one half of production company the Isle Film Company. Jules worked as Peter's assistant on comedy classic Johnny English, starring Rowan Atkinson, a film Peter directed. Together, they went on to make Hollywood film Laws of Attraction with Julianne Moore, Pierce Brosnan and Michael Sheen. But despite getting paid well, Peter said that he felt he'd taken the easy route and wanted to make something that was difficult and hard. This led the pair to their next success, Dangerous Parking. At first, having read the book, Peter thought it would be too difficult to turn it into a film. But that's when he knew he had to, he said. He wrote the script in just 5 days and Jules acted as producer. Peter, who famously played Joey Boswell in the 80s sitcom Bread before going on to make his film directorial debut with Sliding Doors, said he sees parallels between his never say die attitude and that of Robin Hill owners John Smith and Lee Priddle. In the "we're going to do this and it's going to be hard and we don't know what the pitfalls are, but we don't care," he said. "I can see a kindred spirit between me, Lee and John. They don't take themselves too seriously, but they take the work seriously."
Although admitting he first had to look up what Robin Hill was, when he heard the idea he thought it was fantastic, or beautiful carnage as he put it. Jules said having me involved would help and I said no, it won't. Jules said he's quite self-deprecating about his name, career and experience, but is very prevalent. Peter is set to narrate the series and his role as executive producer is to act a bit like Yoda, Jules said, to oversee the production and give a little bit of extra gold and kudos. Though not a galaxy's distance, Peter has come from far, far away to take a look at the park for himself, travelling from his home in North Vancouver. Robin Hill encapsulates the spirit of this island, and John and Lee also encapsulate the people of this island. Hard-working, decent, honest, funny, unpretentious. This place is a jewel. It is the 3rd time Peter has visited the island. He previously came on a school trip as a child and later to film for a TV programme. With plans on the horizon for a film studio in East Cowes, Peter is sure it won't be long before other big names arrive on our shores too. I feel very confident that there's a new, interesting phase in the Isle of Wight's film, TV storytelling journey. If the studio does go forward, that will be a big turning point. The Robin Hill documentary only has a few more days left to film, and a short promotional video, known as a sizzle, is already being sent to prospective studios. As well as the Robin Hill series, the Isle of Wight Film Company, set up by Jules and Lisa Henry of Lobster Locations, is also in the process of developing other island-based projects. Already in the pipeline are another documentary, an independent feature film, and a high-end TV drama, which Peter is writing.
Derelict eyesore needs tender loving care. Concerns are growing over the eyesore state of the historic Isle of Wight Park and Battery, which has been left to rack and ruin. Ugly fencing surrounds 4 council-owned owned and dilapidated wartime buildings at Puckpool Park on the outskirts of Ryde. They have been allowed to fall into disrepair and have sat empty for nearly 2 decades, fed-up residents say. Now Ian Jenkins, who was previously chairman of the Ryde Arena Trust and helped to save Waterside Pool, wants to do something similar for Puckpool Park. Labelling the decision to leave the buildings derelict morally reprehensible, he said, "We are all curators for our history, surely. This is an outstanding site that's just been left to go to rack and ruin. It's just wrong, isn't it?" Most recently, fencing was erected around an old married quarters building near the entrance to the park. Although understanding the need for it, as the buildings could be dangerous, Daniel Gates, owner of the Old Barracks restaurant, admits that there is a worry it could put people off. "It's certainly an eyesore to see the buildings here," he said. "Since those fences have been there, a few people have come in concerned about what's going to happen. From a tourist point of view, as soon as they drive through the gates and straight away they see fence panels and buildings falling down, the initial impression is it's unkempt. 2 of the other buildings were historically used as officers' quarters and a smith's shop and detention cell, respectively."
The exact purpose of the third Second World War property is unknown. As a 19th century mortar battery, Puckpool Park is officially listed as a scheduled monument, and Ian, who lives in Ryde, believes there should be a long-term plan to restore and preserve the whole site. He said, "I can't do this on my own. The Isle of Wight Council has got access to government money. We should formulate a plan for this area and have an economic impact study. We can't just do it up and leave it, because in 50 years' time our kids will be having the same conversation." The council told the county press it does not have money for substantive restoration, but remains committed to exploring funding opportunities to preserve the site for future generations. A spokesman said, "In the meantime, the safety fencing will remain in place to protect the public. Basic housekeeping works will also be undertaken in the coming weeks to tidy the grounds around the buildings or clear up and make safe loose slates and fallen masonry," the council said. "We hope this will have a more positive effect on the appearance of the buildings and prevent future deterioration," the spokesperson added. Councillor Dave Adams, ward member for Nettleston and Seaview, said he shares the concern of residents and has asked the council's regeneration team to see if there are any grants available to support scheduled monuments within the area. Anyone interested in helping Ian should email ian.thinking.finance.co.uk.
Hospital to get new parking machines. Patients and visitors at St Mary's Hospital will be offered free parking on site for a time. Car parks at St Mary's will be free to use during the week commencing April the 28th as part of a project to install new parking machines. According to the Isle of Wight NHS Trust, the new machines will be more reliable due to updated technology. They feature a simple, user-friendly interface, accept payments via coins, cards and contactless methods, and come equipped with large high-definition touchscreens to replace the outdated buttons. The Trust also said a new machine will be conveniently located indoor payment machine near the main reception. A spokesperson for the Isle of Wight NHS Trust said, "We're confident these changes will make parking easier and more convenient for everyone. Thank you for your patience while we carry out these upgrades."
Pedestrian hurt in town centre crash. Police are appealing for witnesses after a serious collision in Newport town centre last Thursday, April the 17th, which left a pensioner hospitalised. The incident happened shortly before 2:20 p.m. on St James's Street near McDonald's. The collision involved a white Vauxhall Corsa and a pedestrian. Emergency services responded quickly, and the pedestrian was taken to hospital, where he remains in a serious but stable condition. Officers from Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Constabulary are urging anyone who may have seen the collision or have relevant dashcam footage to come forward. Police are particularly keen to hear from anyone who has not yet spoken to officers. Anyone with information is asked to call 101, quoting reference 44250 167651. A spokesperson said, Were you in the area at the time and did you see what happened? Perhaps you were driving through and have dashcam footage that captured the incident. Details can also be submitted online by using the Tell Us About It tool on the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary website.
Safety issues raised after woman died in sailing race tragedy. A woman tragically lost her life after falling overboard from a keelboat while racing off the Isle of Wight almost 3 years ago, the Marine Accident Investigation Branch, MAIB, has concluded. The unnamed woman fell overboard from the Andrew Cassell Foundation Sona keelboat Limitless on October the 1st, 2022. Despite wearing a life jacket and appropriate sailing gear, she quickly succumbed to the effects of immersion, and her crewmates were unable to rescue her in time. When additional help arrived, she was swiftly removed from the water, given first aid, and brought ashore, but she could not be revived, despite the efforts of emergency services and medically trained passersby. An MAIB investigation into the incident identified several safety issues. The probe revealed the risk assessment for the activity was incomplete, and it did not consider how individuals who had fallen overboard would be retrieved from the water. The MAIB also concluded the crew lacked sufficient training and practice in recovering a person overboard. The Maritime and Coast Guard Agency has been advised to review the definition of pleasure vessel to clarify vessels operated by organisations and charities for taking vulnerable adults and children afloat that do not fall within this category. The Local Government Association Coastal Special Interest Group has been recommended to bring the report to the attention of local authorities and to urge them to consider the oversight of waterborne charitable activities within their jurisdictions. Andrew Mull, Chief Inspector of Marine Accidents, said, "Any boating activity carries the risk of a person falling in the water. It is important that skippers and event organisers conduct an appropriate assessment to determine the level of assistance that might be required, such as equipment, personnel or support craft, to ensure the timely recovery of a person from the water. Additionally, vessel crews must be practised in the recovery of people from the water and be familiar with their rescue equipment. Not every event or outing requires bespoke equipment, but it may be necessary, especially when sailing with people whose ability to assist with their own recovery might be impaired. All skippers should consider how they and their crew will recover an unconscious person from the water in a timely manner and ensure they and their crew practice thoroughly for such an event."
Firefighters tackle burning shipping container. The Isle of Wight Fire Service attended a yard to deal with a shipping container which was on fire. At least one appliance was called to Downend Aggregates and Restoration near Arreton on Good Friday afternoon. Wearing breathing apparatus, firefighters were able to extinguish the fire using hose reels and jets before using fans to ventilate the container, which contained plastics, an Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service spokesperson said. Firefighters isolated the electrics in the belief an electric fault had sparked the fire. Freshwater's water carrier vehicle, also called out, was stood down en route to the scene as it was no longer required.
MP, Ireland needs a better deal. The government has agreed to look at pricing, timetables and the reliability of Isle of Wight ferry services in the wake of a ministerial visit to the island, the MP for Isle of Wight East has said. Following Mike Kane's MP visit to the island, Joe Robertson, Conservative, said, "I remain of the firm view that the ferry companies alone cannot be relied upon to make the scale of changes needed. They've had 20 years. The unregulated private equity model is broken, and that's why we need government involvement with cross-party working locally." Meanwhile, Isle of Wight West MP Richard Quigley, Labour, said the forum which followed productive meetings he had with Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander and Mr Kane last month was frank, constructive and focused on solutions. The Department for Transport has committed to exploring a range of options, and the Minister has assured us he will remain personally involved as we work to deliver a better deal for the island, he said. Taking to X, formerly Twitter, following the meeting, Mr Kane said, "I was pleased to bring together local MPs, councillors and ferry operators on the Isle of Wight to discuss the issues around ferry services. I hope all parties can now deliver for local people, ensuring access to reliable, affordable journeys."
Companies welcome exchange of views. Isle of Wight ferry companies have spoken out following Wednesday's protest and major transport forum on the island. Whitelink, Red Funnel and Hover Travel have issued statements off the back of the Isle of Wight Ferries round table at the Island Sailing Club in Cowes. A spokesperson for Whitelink said, "There was a good exchange of views and some positive next steps to take forward. Everyone at Whitelink cares about the needs and concerns of our island customers, and we're committed to working in partnership with all round table participants to support and grow the island's economy by bringing more visitors across the Solent." Fran Collins, CEO at Red Funnel, said, "Our focus continues to be on providing a reliable and sustainable lifeline service for the island community. The meeting was open and productive, and I look forward to a continued collaborative approach." Hover Travel spokesperson said, "Hover Travel continues to be committed to understanding and supporting the needs of our island community. We value the opportunity to collaborate with the local council and the Minister's office alongside all round table participants as we work together to grow the island's economy, ensuring we meet the local community's travel needs and encouraging more visitors to travel across the Solent."
Public invitation to open day at the Isle of Wight Crematorium. The Isle of Wight Crematorium is opening its grounds to the public. The open day is set to take place on Saturday, May the 10th, between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m, and will offer visitors a chance to explore the crematorium's surroundings and gain insight into the services offered. The event aims to shed light on the comprehensive care provided by the crematorium and promote the natural environment and the friends groups that help maintain the cemeteries. Visitors will be able to take guided tours, learning about the process involved in cremation services. Staff will be available to answer any questions and provide explanations. The crematorium is set within ancient natural woodland, providing a serene spot for reflection. The grounds feature woodland paths, a brook, a wildflower meadow and formal gardens. Visitors can learn about the various flora and fauna that inhabit the area, including hedgehogs, red squirrels and woodland birds. The open day will also feature information about the council-run cemeteries, highlighting their history and significance. The friends groups who help maintain and preserve these spaces will be present to share their experiences and encourage community involvement. A dedicated baby garden complete with a wooden summer house provides a space for families to leave tributes. The grounds also feature a cherry tree sculpture carved into a squirrel and dove, serving as a natural tribute to those whose ashes are scattered in the area. The recently refurbished chapel, equipped for both large and small ceremonies, will be opened for visitors to view. It includes facilities such as induction loops for guests with hearing impairments. Janice Lord, the Council's Registration and Bereavement Services lead, said, "We believe it's important for the community to understand the services we provide and to see the care and dedication that goes into maintaining these beautiful grounds, and to know about the work we are putting in to preserve and enhance the wildlife here. This open day is a wonderful opportunity for us to connect with the community, showcase the serene environment we have created for remembrance and reflection, and highlight the comprehensive care and support we offer."
A kayak couple take on challenge, a Round Island challenge, by Samantha Gladkaus-Kaiti. A couple will be kayaking around the Isle of Wight to raise money for Retina UK. Starting today, Friday, Robin Frape and Julia Binnington will be undertaking the challenge to raise funds and awareness for the charity. They estimate that the journey will take between 3 to 4 days, depending on the weather and tides. The couple will begin their adventure from Wootton Bridge, paddling up Wootton Creek towards the Solent. They will then travel east or west, depending on the prevailing winds. Robin lives with the inherited sight loss condition, retinitis pigmentosa, and he and Julie regularly fundraise for Retina UK. Robin and Julie said, "Those who live with retina pigmentosa are looking for a cure, so we are pleased to support Retina UK's groundbreaking research projects. Every contribution, no matter how small, can make a significant difference in the quest to find a cure for this challenging condition." James Clark, head of income generation at Retina UK, said, "We are so grateful to Robin and Julie for taking on this incredible challenge for Retina UK. We couldn't carry out our groundbreaking research projects and provide our crucial support services without amazing supporters like them. We will all be cheering them on."
Town Centre coffee shop building up for auction. A popular coffee shop building in the centre of Newport is up for auction. God's Providence House in St Thomas's Square features in Clive Emson's latest property and land auction. Let at £28,000 per annum, it has a freehold guide price of £195,000 plus. Occupying a prominent position overlooking the square, Island auctioneer Rob Marchant said, "God Providence House is one of the Isle of Wight's oldest and most well-known food establishments. The freehold property is arranged over 3 floors and includes a residential flat on the top floor, although that space is currently utilised as storage by the commercial tenant. The property is let under the terms of a 5-year commercial lease. Its ground floor comprises a customer seating area, gift shop, reception room, commercial kitchen and ancillary space. Additional customer seating, an office, staff room and the customer cloakroom with a toilet can be found on the first floor, while the second floor boasts a living room, kitchen, 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. The auction concludes on Thursday, May the 1st, with bidding live 48 hours beforehand.
Islander appears on TV's Britain Got Talent. An Island contestant featured on ITV's hit show Britain's Got Talent last Saturday. Baron Fortitude, the Victorian rapper alter ego of Luck Valvona, auditioned on the show. Luck is from the island, regularly performing at Ballyrag's Comedy Club. He has made appearances at the Ventnor Fringe and at Isle of Wight Festival and founded the Isle of Wight School of Comedy. He performed a song about the ideal way to make a cup of tea, but unfortunately felt the wrath of judges' buzzers, with Simon Cowell, KSI and Alicia Dixon all pressing their red buttons. Sadly, Barren Fortitude did not advance to the next round. Alicia Dixon even quipped that the song was not her cup of tea. Britain's Got Talent is not the first time Luck has featured on TV as Barren Fortitude. He made an appearance in Channel 5's Isle of Wight, Jewel of the South. The 4-part TV series, which aired in 2023, spotlighted different people and aspects of the island. The show featured island entertainer Derek Sandy and Helen Butler on her quest to save the island's red squirrels.
Takeaway in damming inspection. A popular Indian takeaway has been handed a damning 1-star food hygiene rating after inspectors uncovered poor food safety practices and potential risks to public health. Navam Tandoori on Ryde High Street was visited by the Isle of Wight Council's Environmental Health Department on March the 6th. A detailed 15-page inspection report released recently lays bare several food safety and hygiene breaches. The inspector discovered a lack of stock rotation or food labelling inside the kitchen. Items discovered in the fridge included a tub of natural yoghurt dated February the 14th, 2025, 3 weeks out of date at the time of inspection, mussels, chicken curry, tikka, lamb biryani, vegetable marinade, Bombay potatoes and other pre-prepared dishes, all stored with no date labels. An open tin of mango slices left in the fridge without a lid or any form of identification. Raw meat stored in plain white plastic carrier bags in the freezer with no labelling. Labels were available but were not being used. The inspector noted that once exposed, staff began hurriedly discarding items, though the report makes clear this disposal happened after. Although the fridge's digital display showed a temperature of 5.9 degrees centigrade, actual checks told a different story. Using a food probe, the officer found chicken curry and lamb biryani stored at 10.7 degrees centigrade and one piece of chicken at a shocking 12.6 degrees centigrade, well above the legal maximum of 8 degrees centigrade for high-risk food. The inspection uncovered grime and dirt on virtually every hand contact surface. The freezer seals were unclean and ice-stained pink, brown, green, with mould in several areas. A particularly grim discovery was an electric fly killer directly above open curry dishes and spices. Not only was the unit full of dead insects, but it was also turned off. At the time of the visit, there was no hot water at the equipment sink, something staff admitted had been an issue for months. The restaurant was unable to prove where their food had come from, as the original packaging had been discarded and the meat was stored loose in unlabelled plain white carrier bags. Navam Tandoori declined to comment.
Youth Trust celebrates first 40 years by Samantha Gladhouse-Keiter. The Isle of Wight Youth Trust opened its doors for a special event. The open day earlier this month allowed the charity to connect with the community and showcase its work supporting young people. The event began with a morning session where parents and children could explore the facilities and learn about the support available. This was followed by an afternoon session for local stakeholders and the business community, featuring a tour and presentation. The presentation highlighted the Trust's work over the past 40 years, focusing on its role in shaping mental health support for young people on the island. Joe Dare, Chief Executive Officer, said, "We were so pleased to be able to showcase how the Youth Trust is developing its vital work to support the mental health and well-being of young islanders up to the age of 25. We were able to explain how the demand for our services is growing and how challenging it can be to achieve the funds required. If individuals or businesses are interested in our work and may be able to support what we do, then please contact Abby on fundraising a Isle of Wight Youth Trust.uk. The truth The Trust is committed to ensuring young voices are heard and represented effectively across the island.
And now we move on to white memories and nostalgia. Old school building steeped in history by David White. Slumbering in a forgotten state of decadence perhaps describes one of Newport's oldest buildings. The King James I Grammar School has many tales to tell. Even its part played in the shaping of British history. The story began in 1614 when local worthies gave land and money with which to build a school, befitting the expanding importance of the town. The boys chosen were local sons of the gentry, but 15 places were given to boys from the town in order that they might be educated for free. Education was based on hard work, good conduct in school and outside the school, and a training in good citizenship, as well as a classical study of general subjects. The headmasters varied in suitability, some liking the bottle, some swearing and being abusive. One Herman Gosling in 1659 was dismissed for beating and pulling pupils' ears. If this was not enough, he had also introduced girls into the school, which the local corporation considered unseemly and could prove of dangerous consequence and the ruin of the school.
Perhaps the most significant role of the school played in the shaping of history was when the discussions between King Charles I and parliamentary commissioners took place in the school's long room. This was regarding the signing of the Treaty of Newport in 1648, which, following the King's reluctance to abide by, led to his execution. During that period, the school had stables plus extensive walled grounds, and the schoolmaster was William Hopkins. By the Victorian period, the school had become a well-established institution, displaying all the best public school characteristics. The pupils would often be seen at official public events in their mortarboards and Eton jackets, in later years in black blazers and caps with white piping. By the mid-60s, it was under financial pressure, limiting the ability to maintain the school, and by that time the headmaster was Major P. Erith, one of the last heads. Under his stewardship, new larger premises were obtained outside Newport. One was Swainston in Kelbourne, and another along the seafront at Cowes. These would become boarding schools, and the association would become the King James I School Ltd. All of these changes took place during 1963 to 1964, the old grammar school being abandoned. The actual King James School eventually closed in 1969. However, the charity commissioners insisted that the building must in future be used for educational or semi-educational purposes. Thus, it became Newport's Youth Centre. Today, it slumbers with only its wealth of memories, perhaps in the hope of waiting for the next chapter of its long history to begin.
And now we move on to public information. Joe Robertson, the MP for Isle of Wight East, writes, "All we are asking for is our island to be treated fairly." On Wednesday, the Minister for Maritime and Aviation visited the island to host a roundtable with the ferry companies, Richard Quigley and me and other stakeholders. It was an opportunity to make the case to the Minister and civil servants from the Department of Transport that services and prices are so far from what is acceptable that the ferry companies cannot be relied upon to make the improvements required without government oversight. I presented evidence of £350 return tickets, dwindling timetables which have seen the Portsmouth to Fishbourne route reduced from an average of 35 return crossings a day in 2010 to 30 in 2015 and only 25 in 2025. I am confident that the Minister will return to Westminster with a better impression of the scale of the problems than when he arrived. The government is nationalising trains and subsidising buses to the tune of £1 billion. Isle of Wight ferries are an outlier as the only lifeline transport link entirely privately owned, unregulated, debt-laden and unsubsidised. All we are asking for, our island, is to be treated fairly like everywhere else in the UK. Meanwhile, I have set up a Ryde Business Forum to better connect businesses in Ryde. It is being chaired by John McLagan, and we held our first drop-in event at Royal Victoria Arcade in Union Street with over 50 people in attendance. It comes at an important time for Ryde, which will be receiving £20 million from the government over the next 7 to 10 years to be distributed by a new neighbourhood board. And I want to make sure a wide spectrum of voices have input into how the money is spent. I am pleased to have persuaded the board to add 4 new members with an emphasis on business, health, education and young people. During the break, I took the opportunity to attend 2 Let's Talk beach surgeries with local police in Lake Morrison's and Shanklin Co-op. I heard from concerned residents about antisocial behaviour, including the nuisance caused by the illegal use of scooters. The Crime and Policing Bill is currently going through Parliament. I am on the Bill Committee, which will give the police a number of new powers, such as the power to confiscate scooters driven with intent to annoy without having to first give a warning. I also met with Ventnor residents and Councillor Ed Blake in Bath Road to lend my support to getting it reopened. I'm pleased that within days the council finally agreed to get it reopened and deal with the potential ownership dispute thereafter, so residents and businesses don't have to suffer any longer while the council argues about who should foot the final bill. Next on the agenda is Belgrave Road, which I have already spoken about.
Now, under more public information, criminals are pretending to be from DWP by Sally Ash, Isle of Wight against scams partnerships. With the winter fuel payments being removed from so many people this year, criminals are jumping on the bandwagon and seeing it as an opportunity to scam us out of our information and money. Action Fraud has reported that it is recording very high volumes of suspicious emails and texts relating to cold weather payment schemes. The message claims to come from the Department of Works and Pensions and instructs you to click on a link to make sure you get your payment. They add a deadline date to pressure you into responding. This is a scam. Do not click on the link. If you think you qualify for help with any kind of payments, contact the DWP or the Isle of Wight Council, who will be able to help you. Other similar messages, email and text, will claim that you are eligible for food vouchers or payments from the Household Support Fund. It will tell you to click on a link to claim. These are all scams. Again, if you think you qualify for assistance, contact the relevant agency for help. Remember, Government UK will not contact you via text. Never click on a link in a text, email or WhatsApp message. Don't be panicked into making rash decisions. Stop and think before responding to any message or request. Forward scam messages to 7726, the National Cyber Security Centre, will use this information as intelligence. Forward scam emails to reports a PHI or Publishing Government UK, where it will be used as intelligence. If you have responded to a scam, contact your bank in the first instance to report the fraud. Investigate the possibility of getting your money back and to ensure there hasn't been any suspicious activity on your accounts. Reporting a scam. For advice on scams, call Citizens Advice Consumer Helpline 0808 250 5050. To report a scam, call Action Fraud on 0300 123 2040. For more information on scams, visit www.iwasp.org.uk.
And now we have some What's On. On Sunday the 4th of May, we have a Gardening Galore 2025 at Rookley. It begins at 10 a.m. Rookley Village Association is pleased to announce that it will once again be running its hugely popular Gardening Galore event, which will take place on Sunday 4th of May between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. Rookley Village Hall, Highwood Lane, Rookley. And you can contact the secretary on secretaryva24@gmail.com or call them on 07831 790506.
Saturday, the 10th of May, other words, featured Folks and Blues, Wolverton Folk and Blue Fair, 11:30 a.m., £15, a one-day festival of folk and blue music set in the stunning grounds at Wolverton Manor, Wolverton Lane, Shorewell, iwfood and folk.gmail.com.
Also on Sunday the 4th of May, we have an evening of spectacular music and memories, and it's at 6 p.m. and it's £16.50. Come and listen to an evening of spectacular music to raise much needed funds for the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Air Ambulance, and it's at 1 Leisure Medina Theatre, Fairley Road, Newport, and you can call them on 07951 368 341, and that's on Sunday the 4th of May.
Now a fairy tale classic with an Ibiza twist. A classic tale is being reimagined as a nightclub dance spectacle. The Red Shoes, based on Hans Christian Andersen's story, will be performed at Department in Ride tonight, Friday, Thursday, May the 1st, and Friday, May the 2nd. The show is set in a nightclub, will be pulsing with the beat of Ibiza classics, and the performance will start at 8 p.m. The story will follow Emma, a young woman desperate to belong. When she meets two mysterious figures, she's drawn into a world of power, confidence, and a pair of red shoes. The show is being put on by Horsebox Theatre. The show will be standing only, and audience members are encouraged to join the rave.
Killer Movie musicians add Ireland gig to the UK tour. A band who specialises in covering soundtracks, snippets from the films of Wes Anderson, will make their way to the Isle of Wight next month for a stop on their UK tour. The aptly named Wes Banderson will take to the stage at Newport's Key Arts Theatre on Saturday, May the 10th. The group will perform original score music from films by the director known for Fantastic Mr. Fox and The French Dispatch. Speaking to the county press ahead of the tour, band leader Adam Zanardi revealed how the project started. "I've always been in love with the soundtracks and original scores from Wes Anderson movies," Adam said. "I had a realisation that no one else is really doing this repertoire. I'm such an obsessive perfectionist, I was worried if I didn't do it, someone else might. I thought, let's build a project out of the soundtracks, and it seems to have resonated pretty well." Wes Anderson's films often use music from the 1960s and 1970s, with famous scenes soundtracked by David Bowie, Nico and the Kinks. Adam's project prefers to focus on the original scores by composers, including Alexandre Desplat and Mark Mothersbaugh. Wes Banderson will perform musical interludes and soundtrack snippets from Rushmore, The Royal Tenenbaums, Moonrise Kingdom and more films by the Oscar-winning director. The music choice for what we're doing live is all built around how we can build an exciting show, Adam said. It has to be entertaining and to keep people engaged. The thought behind it is how can we cover this music but also make it function as a proper gig. Although COVID-19 quashed original plans to tour the band, Adam decided to bring the project back last summer. He recruited some friends who he described as technical beasts. I got excited about the music again and thought, it's time to bring it back, said Adam. The project is just a way to play fun music with absolute killer musicians. Rather coincidentally, Wes Anderson's tour will finish a week before the release of The Phoenician Scheme, the newest film by Wes Anderson, starring Benicio del Toro, Scarlett Johansson and Michael Cera.
Dragstar Gets Frank Down to a T by Laurie Little. It was inspired casting to get popular Isle of Wight drag star Quivers to ditch the makeup and take on an entirely different role. Quivers was a revelation as the iconic Frank Spencer, the hapless but lovable central character in Some Mothers Do Have Them. The play, based on the 1970s TV sitcom, is being staged at Department in Ryde for the next few Wednesday nights. From the first "ooh" uttered by Frank, the audience knew they were in for a treat. Every word, every nuance, every glance, every ad-lib to the audience, this was Frank Spencer personified. A brilliantly endearing and funny performance. Quivers, we need to see more of you. No, that's not a double entendre. Frank's foil was a long-suffering sweet wife Betty, again well cast with Ellie Vaughan, terrific in the style of Michelle Detrice. She had the voice and mannerisms down pat. Betty was trying to tell Frank she was having a baby, but things got very confused, and there were several distractions and accidents along the way, of course. Able supporting actors impressed too. Joe Plum, Selwyn Horton, Caroline Reed, and Fizz Lewis Martin all had great stage presence. It was carnage, but you would expect nothing else while you're in Frank's house. It was also laugh aloud, as promised from start to finish. The writer of Some Mothers Do Have Them, Ray Allen, was from Ryde, and so in keeping with department's ethos of celebrating local talent, it was a fitting match. The set worked well with clever use of limited space. There were separate areas of the theatre set up as Frank's lounge, kitchen, and the front door area, and a very adaptable wardrobe. It is a shame the remodelling of the department didn't allow for a bigger theatre, if the plays are all this good. If there are any tickets left, do grab them. You won't regret this chance to see a totally endearing Quivers in this very funny role.
And now we move on to letters. Councillor Ed Blake from Ventnor writes, "Road issues a collective failure." Councillor leader Phil Jordan told us last week, County Press 18th for the 4th 25, that he is about to lead our authority into possible legal dispute with Island Roads. Before he hands more of Islanders' money to expensive lawyers, it may be worth him reflecting on some inconvenient truths about how he has led us to this sorry position. Legal disputes have lingered while the political responsibility for the roads contact has rested solely with him, personally, and or his alliance administration for the last 8 of the last 12 years. That constant disagreements in the contract exist as a damning reflection on his leadership. Here are a few examples of failings. First, the council was awarded £2.14 million in 2023 for various safety improvements on the A3056. Yet nothing apparent has been done. Why not? Second, the council received £1.6 million last year to fix potholes. Where has this money gone? Third, £300,000 was set aside for Vittlefields Cross at the expense of other safety schemes. That despite appeals for action by the Isle of Wight coroner and a 7,000 name petition in 2019, no significant work has been undertaken. This also despite Councillor Matt Price raising the lack of action in a question to the leader at full council earlier this year. In my ward of Ventnor and St Lawrence, we have Belgrave Road, Bath Road and South Grove Road all closed with a host of excuses offered. When it came to Leeson Road, Ventnor residents well know that council inaction extended the closure for many more months longer than necessary. All the above represent a collective failure of the council under Councillor Jordan to address road issues that matter to our communities. Rather than trying to offload the blame on others, he needs to take responsibility for the failure of his own leadership.
Mend critical relationship, Bob Seeley Modeston. The relationship between the Isle of Wight Council and Island Roads is critical for the good of the island. Sadly, it is clear that the relationship between them has broken down. Instead of a positive and problem-solving approach, we have finger-pointing from Council Leader Phil Jordan, County Press, see 18th of the 4th 25, with apparent threat of legal action that we can ill afford. In Isle of Wight West, we need urgent focus on critical issues. First, in 2021, the Council was paid £6.3 million by the Ministry of Justice to upgrade roads. 4 years on, no significant of improvement has been delivered. People around Parkhurst are still waiting. Second, on the military road, there appears no plan to tackle either the existing risks or to present a long-term strategy for preserving the road for as long as possible. We risk a potentially disastrous failure at 1, 2, or even possibly 3 sites. Nothing appears to be happening. We need cooperation and commitment between Island Roads and the Council. If the current council leader can't provide that, let's hope that Conservative Group leader Councillor Ed Blake manages to lead the council from next month, so he can begin the relationship with Island Roads afresh and progress can be made.
Edward Leon from Sandown writes, "Make leaf blowers a thing of the past. Isn't it time we banned leaf, dust and litter blowers? What good do they do? And when they blow dust up into the air, passers-by, including babies in prams and toddlers in pushchairs, are at risk of inhaling it, which is very dangerous to health. Many people who use them, instead of picking the stuff up, are so lazy that they merely blow it into the properties next door for their occupants to deal with. Outdoor leaf vacuums are readily available now, so there is no longer any need whatsoever for leaf blowers." Then hopefully the scene I watched yesterday, where a painter of road markings was blowing dust from his target site up into the air into passing cars' air conditioning for their occupants to breathe in the dust, will hopefully be a thing of the past.
Fix Foundations Before Fixed Links Feasibility Study by Penelope Baker Lake. With hundreds of job losses on the island, is it really the time for a costly feasibility study on a horrendously expensive environmental and financial fixed link? Would the RMT guarantee no strike action, as a strike could paralyse the island if it was dependent on a train tunnel? Would we have more secure links to the mainland with the RMT's track record? Would the feasibility study cover this? Young people leave for the mainland and companies are not welcome, it seems. One thing that would make the island more attractive to big companies is energy security. But with no land allocated in the island planning strategy for wind turbines and new solar farms, there's a lack of commitment to energy security. Isn't it time to fix the foundations of a sound economy? It is clear that this island is now seen as a dumping ground for housing allocations. In Sandown, I wish we could support the farmers with a winter farmers market. It would increase footfall in the town centre at that time of year. Now, one more, local support local, Andy Clayton in Ryde. It baffles me that the co-op in Ryde, and for all I know everywhere else on the island, is selling Spanish garlic. Don't they know we grow our own here? I sent a comment to them and received a thank you for your feedback reply, but not an explanation. It seems crazy to me that we should actually support garlic.
And that ends this week's Talking News. So it's goodbye from Jerry.
And Ursula.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, a question for you. What do you think the Mona Lisa sounds like in musical terms? Well, a visually impaired composer has adapted famous pieces of art for our benefit. More on that later. And as our theme today is accessible art, remember this?
I'm Giggle the cat. I have orange and yellow stripy fur and ears shaped like triangles.
Hello, it's me, Pockets, and my guide dog Yapet.
Well, those are a couple of the Mix Mups, the troupe of animated characters that we featured last year, created by visually impaired writer and producer Rebecca Atkinson, and aimed at the 5s and just under. They proved very popular on Channel 5's early morning segment Milkshake. But now Rebecca wants to take the project much further with something called Ultra Access. The idea is that youngsters with a range of disabilities can customise the show to suit their specific viewing needs whilst watching online. Rebecca joins us again. First of all, just explain the concept of Ultra Access and how you've adapted the Mix Mups episodes.
Sure. So Ultra Access is something completely new, which makes it quite hard to explain sometimes. It's a service that we're offering on Mixmup with 10 episodes of the show, where we're using interactive TV technology to allow viewers to mix up their own bespoke access. So we're taking access, traditional TV access, beyond subtitled audio description and signers, and we're extending that to offer Mixmup's viewers a whole raft of other access features, which they can mix and match and mix up over 4,000 different ways to watch Mixmups now.
And just give me an idea of the sort of things that would help a visually impaired child.
So when I was writing 52 episodes of Mixmups, I was really aware of how children of different needs were going to access the stories. I started thinking about, well, perhaps these children would find it useful to have a shortened synopsis before they watch an episode so that the parents can say, OK, we'll watch this and we can tell you what this show's going to be about before you actually watch it. I was also aware that audio description doesn't have time to tell you the details of what people look like, what they're wearing, what the sets look like. So we created World of Mixmups, which is a 6-minute introduction to the world. It describes all the characters in detail. It describes where they live. So it really allows a visually impaired child to get really immersed.
We all live in a round helter-skelter house in Mixington Valley.
It's got red and white stripes on the outside.
There's also an option to simplify the visuals. So this means that a child with visual impairment or sensory processing difficulties has less to have to take in. They can just track the main action with the characters.
Right. Now, at the moment, as we've said, this is only available online and for the Mixmups. How confident are you that, mainstream companies will be up for adopting this and other series?
I would love to see CBeebies take this up. I would love to see other TV shows, maybe 10 episodes of Bluey with Ultra Access, Peppa Pig with Ultra Access, to allow these children, and it's not just visually impaired children or deaf children, it's children with autism, it's children with learning disabilities, to open up TV stories to a whole generation of children with different special needs.
Right. Well, someone who will almost certainly have a view on that is our other guest, Kate Dimbleby, co-founder of Stornoway, which is a company that's been working with this idea of customising the way that we interact with various forms of media. Kate, it sounds as if coming across Rebecca and her ideas was a bit of a gift for you, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Peter. So Stornoway is an interactive video platform technology built for TV and streaming platforms. We haven't been able to get it on the mainstream because until people see these use cases, they don't really understand what's possible.
Had you seen the potential for children with disabilities?
Yes, so one of the things that Stornoway is being used around the world for is to unlock educational projects online, video projects for children and teenagers, offering multiple paths depending on their needs and their interests. And that's the future, really, is like rather than broadcast media, we're talking about actually being able to make media that feeds what people are interested in and is personalised to them.
Could it go mainstream, do you think? Could it be available on, all new television sets at some time?
There's no reason why it can't be. And we've had actually, since Rebecca wrote a beautiful piece about her experience as a child and how she wanted to move accessibility forward. And since then, we've been approached by quite a lot of different platforms.
This may make you groan as a creative person, but I'm assuming there's quite a lot of potential for AI in doing this in terms of, the amount of technical invention that's needed.
Yes, and I think it's always going to be where we feel quite confident because we're seeing what happens when you give people the tools to create this kind of complex layered media. AI can help with that. It can fast forward translation. It can do all sorts of things with the visuals. But actually, it really is the human vision at the heart of working with the technology. So I feel quite confident that AI will definitely help fast forward all these innovations, but it actually won't be doing it for us quite yet.
Right. Let's just quickly go back to Rebecca. Just remind us again where people can find the Ultra Access episodes of Mixed Mums.
Sure. So they can go to channel5.com and then it's the milkshake section, which is for young children. So it's channel5.com/milkshake and they will be able to find them there.
Rebecca Atkinson, Kate Dimbleby, thank you both very much indeed. Now, it's a moment for artistic honesty on my part. As a congenitally blind person with only light perception, I've never been able to derive any satisfaction from visual art, however great people tell me it is, or even how well it's described to me. But a lot of visually impaired people assure me that they do. And then again, I've never tried finding a link between art and music, which I do enjoy hugely. So, here goes. Visually impaired composer Bobby Goulder, whose new album, Sounds of a Masterpiece, created with the BBC's new radiophonic workshop, has attempted to reimagine in musical terms 7 of the world's great paintings, from Da Vinci's Mona Lisa to David Hockney's A Bigger Splash and Jean-Michel Basquiat's King of Egypt, all with the aim of bringing visually impaired people closer to art. Bobby Goulder, welcome to In Touch. So where does this idea derive from?
Well, as you alluded to yourself, the visually impaired community often don't get quite as much from art, from the visual arts. So I'm visually impaired myself, but I have a decent amount of peripheral vision, so I can get some general sense of, of colour and perhaps sort of landscape. I've always found that a verbal audio description, merely saying in words, describing the picture, doesn't quite give enough, of what's really behind that art. And there's always so much texture and so much depth to the feelings that can be gained from painting. So Sound of a Masterpiece is all about trying to heighten some of those emotions for those with less vision to be able to appreciate a bit more, but also for people with full vision to see things in a different way or interpret the art in a different way.
I mentioned 3 there. What other pieces have you included on this album?
So I think the full 7 is, you've mentioned David Hockney, Basquiat. The Scream is in there, which is pretty dark. Then there's a piece of Salvador Dali, The Persistence of Memory, and then Frida Kahlo, one of her self-portraits. I may have forgotten one. I think we've got them all.
We'll try and think of it before the end.
Oh, Monet, of course, the water lilies. That's one of my favourites.
Well, we'll come back to that. How would you persuade someone like me that I could find a way of appreciating the Mona Lisa or the Scream? You know, is there audio description with this?
I would actually start by saying that there really isn't a way of drawing a perfect parallel between a piece of sound and a piece of visual art. This is all so subjective. The pieces really are about kind of stimulating the imagination, I suppose. But there are sort of two versions of these tracks. There's one without audio description, if you want to just sort of close your eyes and let the imagination run wild. Or there is also versions with verbal descriptions attached.
Well, I'll try harder. I'm an old curmudgeon. Someone who has been far more open-minded about this is Sam Leftwich, who we met actually at an art gallery. So I know, Sam, that you're interested. Just explain your relationship with art.
So I think for a long time, I've always been quite a creative person, creating art, but not from a professional capacity. I'd say now it is part of my work. I am an engagement manager for a sight loss council in Essex and in Bedfordshire and Hertfordshire. And we have arts and culture projects where we are working to improve the accessibility for blind and partially sighted people to the arts.
And you do have some vision, don't you?
I do. So I'm registered severely sight impaired, but I have some usable vision. I can get by and imagine, certainly with some description, what a piece of art might look like.
So would you like to pick an example from one of these imaginings and tell us what it tells you?
Yes, I think I felt kind of closest to Water Lily Pond by Monet. And I think when I first listened to it, you kind of hear the water droplets. It just kind of took me straight to sort of the water. And then afterwards, there was more of a melodic kind of sound and pieces that came on board. And I just felt really tranquil and calm. I have actually visited that garden where he painted that particular picture when I was fully sighted. So for me, it did take me back, and it was quite kind of emotional, but in a nice kind of positive way. And I could remember exactly what that looks like, and then thinking about the picture itself and the painting itself, how that might relate to that. But I do think the use of the audio description to go along with that is a really powerful way of kind of linking the two together. So I can imagine there are certain people who will enjoy it and will take a lot from it, and then there are probably some people who will go, not so much, not for me. But I think, like everything, people have their own preferences when it comes to music, when it comes to art. A lot of our Sight Loss Council members across the country will certainly have something to say and take something from it.
Bobby, where can people hear the album?
The album is called Sound of a Masterpiece, and it's available to download and stream Amazon Music, Apple Music and Tidal. It actually isn't available on Spotify because that's not set up to stream fully immersive, like a 3D audio. So we mixed all of these tracks in Dolby Atmos, which allows for a fully immersive sort of 3D sound experience. So I definitely encourage listening on a good set of headphones if you have them.
Bobby Goulder, Sam Leftwich, thank you both very much indeed. And that's it for today. Reactions, please, as always, email in touch at bbc.co.uk and leave your voice messages on 0161 836 1338. From me, Peter White, and producer Beth Hemmings, an artistic goodbye.
Here is this week's scaffolding and skips news for the week commencing the 25th of April 2025. In Newport area, Favian Barber's shop in Pyle Street, Guildhall, Quayside, Quay Street, and Newport area skips, Dulcroft Road in Rookley.
In the right area, there's Merry & Co, 73 High Street, 35 High Street, Bembridge, Aspire, 35 to 36 High Street. And in the right area skips, 28 Abingdon Street, 66 Well Street, The Lodge, Ferry Road, Seaview.
Cowes area, the Royal Yacht Squadron, and Cowes area skips, 13 Albany Road, East Cowes, 67 Moor Green Road and 18 Pelham Road.
And in the Ventnor area, it's Church Street, 5 Pearse Street, the Tavern, God's Hill. And in Ventnor area, Skips, 48 Trinity Road, 31 Allotment Road, Knighton.
In Sandown area, Premier Inn, 1 to 9 on the Esplanade, Viv's Cooking, 9 High Street, and the Montpellier Hotel in 5 Pearse Street. Sandown area Skips, Station Avenue and 46 Fitzroy Street.
And lastly, in the Freshwater area, 133 School Green Road,